Here's another stupid Prager University video. This one's about abortion.
Only if a pregnant woman doesn't want to give birth do many people regard the fetus as worthless. Now, does that make sense? It doesn't seem to. Either a human fetus has worth, or it doesn't.
False fucking dichotomy. It is not simply a matter of whether it does or does not have worth, but how much worth it has relative to the worth of the mother's bodily autonomy.
And this is moral argument number 2. On what moral grounds does the mother alone decide a fetus's worth?
The mother is the only person who can decide the extent to which childbirth is a burden to her. Since she's the only person in a position to make that judgment, she's the only person who can weigh that burden against the moral worth of the fetus's life.
We certainly don't do that with regard to a newborn child.
A newborn child does not place a comparable burden on the mother's bodily autonomy, so its moral worth does not have to be weighed against her bodily autonomy.
It is society, not the mother or the father, that determines whether a newborn child has worth and a right to live.
And that's fine. They can do that because after the child is born, its survival is no longer dependent upon the mother's body. A fetus is, and since the mother is the only person who can judge whether the value of that fetus is worth the burden of pregnancy and childbirth, society has no role to play in that judgment.
So the question is, why should that be different before the human being is born? Why does one person, a mother, get to determine whether that being has any right to live? People respond by saying that a woman has the right to control her body. Now, that is entirely correct. The problem here, however, is that the fetus is not her body. It is in her body.
Either this guy is really stupid or he's being deliberately obtuse. If what is in your body affects your body, as is the case with pregnancy, then you simply can't have complete control over your body without having control over what is in it. Prager is treating the fetus as though it has nothing to do with the woman's body and places no burdens upon it.
It is a separate body. And that's moral argument number 3.
No, it's not a fucking separate body. It is a distinct body, but it is not a separate one. It is a connected one. It is a body that has unavoidable effects on the mother's body. The mother cannot have complete control over her own body without having control over the fetus's body.
Moral argument number 4. Virtually everyone agrees that the moment the baby comes out of the womb, killing the baby is murder. But deliberately killing it a few months before birth is considered no more morally problematic than extracting a tooth. How does that make sense?
When the fetus is in the womb, its value has to be weighed against the value of the mother's bodily autonomy. After it is born, the mother's bodily autonomy is no longer relevant, so we no longer have to weigh that against the value placed on the baby. How does Prager not understand this? He speaks as though the fetus has nothing to do with the mother's body at all.
And finally, moral argument number 5. Aren't there instances in which just about everyone, even among those who are pro-choice, would acknowledge that an abortion might not be moral? For example, would it be moral to abort a female fetus solely because the mother prefers boys to girls, as has happened millions of times in China and elsewhere?
The morality of abortion is not a simple binary issue. It's not simply moral or immoral. Rather, it has to do with balancing competing values. There are abortions which, in and of themselves, I find to be morally objectionable. However, I can't think of any abortion carried out with the mother's consent which is more morally objectionable than forcing her to give birth against her will.